The pain hit me halfway through my morning presentation. Sharp, crushing pressure in my chest that made my left arm tingle. I gripped the podium, trying to steady myself as cold sweat beaded on my forehead. "Sarah, are you okay?" My colleague James stepped forward, concern etched on his face. "I'm fine," I managed, even as the room started spinning. "Just nervous about presenting." That's what everyone had been telling me for months anyway. Just anxiety. Just stress. Just in my head. At 28, I was the youngest project manager at our firm. According to my family, that pressure was causing me to imagine health problems. They'd heard enough about my racing heart, my shortness of breath, the chest pains that kept me up at night. "You're too young for heart problems," Mom would say dismissively. "Stop Googling symptoms and get some therapy." I made it through the presentation somehow, but the pain didn't subside. In the bathroom afterward, I called my sister Diana, who was a nurse. Surely she would understand. "My chest hurts so bad," I whispered, sitting on the floor. "It's different this time." "Sarah, we've been through this," Diana sighed. "You're having another panic attack. Remember what your therapist said about breathing exercises." "This isn't anxiety," I insisted, my voice shaking. "Something's really wrong. Look, I know work's been stressful, but you need to stop being dramatic. Do you know how many young women come to the ER convinced they're having heart attacks when it's just anxiety?" I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. Even my medical professional sister didn't believe me. Later that evening, at our weekly family dinner, I picked up my food while everyone discussed my attention-seeking behavior. First it was those breathing problems last year, Mom started, passing the salad. Then the dizziness, and now heart problems. "Honey, you need to stop reading WebMD." Dad nodded in agreement. "Princess, your job is stressful. Maybe you should consider something less demanding." The breathing problems were real, I protested. "The inhaler helped until you convinced yourself you needed something new to worry about," Diana cut in. "As a nurse, I'm telling you, you're too young and healthy for these issues." My brother Mark laughed. "Remember when she thought she had mono in college? Turned out she was just staying up too late studying." I pushed my plate away, the familiar pressure building in my chest again. "You don't understand. This morning during my presentation." "Oh, so it happened during a stressful presentation," Mom interrupted. "Case closed. Anxiety." The pain intensified. I pressed my hand against my chest, trying to take deep breaths, like the therapist they'd insisted I see had taught me. "See, she's doing it again," Diana pointed out. "Classic anxiety behavior." I struggled to get the words out. "I can't breathe properly." "Sarah, enough." Dad's voice was sharp. "You're ruining dinner with this hypochondria." I stood up abruptly, grabbing my purse. The room was spinning, my left arm now completely numb. "Where are you going?" Mom demanded. "Emergency room," I gasped, "with or without your support." "Don't be ridiculous." Diana stood too. "I'm not enabling this behavior. You're having a panic attack because we called you out." I stumbled toward the door, my heart feeling like it might explode. Mark followed me, laughing. "Should I call the Oscar committee? This is your best performance yet, sis." The last thing I remember was reaching for my car door handle before everything went black. I woke up to paramedics hovering over me and Mark's laughter replaced by panicked calls to our parents. In the ambulance, the EMT didn't dismiss my symptoms as anxiety. He didn't tell me to try breathing exercises. Instead, he moved with quick, focused precision, rattling off medical terms into his radio. "Previous complaints of chest pain?" he asked, attaching monitors. "Yes," I whispered. For months, nobody believed me. His expression darkened as he checked the readings. "We'll be at the hospital in 5 minutes. Hang in there." Through my fading consciousness, I heard him say something about cardiac event and should have been caught earlier. As they rushed me through the emergency room doors, I caught a glimpse of my family running in behind the ambulance. Diana's medical confidence was gone, replaced by pure fear. Mom was crying. Dad looked shell-shocked. The last thing I heard before the darkness took over again was the doctor's urgent voice. "She's not having a panic attack. This is a serious cardiac event." How long has she been complaining of symptoms? The answer would have to wait. In that moment, as consciousness slipped away, I felt a grim satisfaction. They were finally going to learn that I wasn't being dramatic after all. I just hoped the lesson wouldn't come too late. The cardiac unit's monitors beeped steadily as I drifted in and out of consciousness. Through the fog of medication, I caught fragments of conversations between doctors and my shell-shocked family. Undiagnosed congenital heart condition. Could have been caught months ago. Lucky she got here when she did. Diana's medical knowledge seemed to have abandoned her. My confident sister, who always had answers, now stood silent, gripping my hand while the cardiologist explained what they'd found. The symptoms Ms. Harrison reported: the chest pain, shortness of breath, arm numbness. These were classic warning signs, Dr. Martinez said, his tone carefully neutral but his implications clear. According to her medical records, she sought help multiple times. Mom's voice trembled. We all thought it was anxiety. A dangerous assumption, he replied, pulling up my test results. This type of congenital defect often goes undetected until adulthood, but once symptoms appear, they shouldn't be ignored. I opened my eyes fully to see Diana covering her face with her hands. The nurse who dismissed so many patients' concerns was now on the other side of the equation. I should have known, she whispered. All those times she called me for help. Dr. Martinez continued reviewing my case. The stress of her cardiac events being dismissed as mental health issues likely contributed to the severity of this episode. Psychological stress can exacerbate physical conditions. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Their insistence that it was all in my head had actually made my heart condition worse. Dad, who hadn't spoken since I was admitted, finally found his voice. Can you fix it? She'll need surgery, Dr. Martinez explained. The defect is significant but correctable. However, he paused, looking directly at my family. Her recovery will require a strong support system, one that takes her symptoms seriously. The rebuke in his voice was subtle but clear. Later that evening, when the doctors had left, Mom sat beside my bed, her makeup streaked with tears. Why didn't we listen? She asked, more to herself than to me. All those times you told us something was wrong. Because it was easier to believe I was being dramatic, I said softly. Easier than accepting something might actually be wrong with me. Diana, still in her nurse's scrubs from her shift at another hospital, paced the room. I'm supposed to be a medical professional. I'm supposed to advocate for patients. Instead, I gaslit my own sister about her symptoms. You did what everyone else did, I said. Saw a young woman complaining about health problems and jumped to anxiety as the explanation. That's not okay. She stopped pacing, looking at me intently. None of this was okay. Dad, who'd been quietly standing by the window, turned around. I kept telling you to toughen up, his voice cracked. My little girl was suffering and I told her to toughen up. The heart monitor caught the slight increase in my pulse as emotions rose. A nurse popped her head in immediately, the first time my physical symptoms had been taken seriously in months. I need everyone to help keep the patient calm, she said firmly. Her heart has been through enough. My family looked stricken at the reminder of how fragile my condition was. How fragile it had been all those times they dismissed my complaints. Mark, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet since his panicked call to 911, finally spoke up. Remember last month at the beach, when you couldn't keep up with us on the walk, and we all made fun of you for being out of shape? I nodded. You were literally walking around with a heart defect. His voice was hollow. We made jokes about you needing to exercise more while your heart was actually struggling. The cardiologist had explained how lucky I was that my condition hadn't caused a major event during physical exertion. All those times they pushed me to exercise more or stop being lazy could have been catastrophic. I need you all to understand something, I said, my voice stronger than it had been all day. After the surgery, during recovery, I can't handle any more dismissal. If I say something hurts, if I say something feels wrong. Well, listen, Mom interrupted, squeezing my hand. God help me, we'll listen to every word. Diana wiped her eyes. I'm going to take time off work to help with your recovery, and I'm going to do better, not just for you, but for every patient who tells me something's wrong. The same family that had gathered to mock my attention-seeking at dinner was now gathering to promise change. The crisis had forced them to confront their biases, their dismissiveness, their casual cruelty masked as tough love. As night fell and visiting hours came to an end, they reluctantly prepared to leave. Surgery was scheduled for the morning, and we all needed rest. Sarah, Diana paused at the door. I'm so sorry we made you doubt yourself. You knew your body better than any of us. Better than even me with all my medical training. I watched them go, my heart monitor continuing its steady rhythm. Tomorrow would bring surgery and the start of recovery, not just for my heart, but for my family's ability to listen and believe. 3 months after my surgery, I sat in Dr. Martinez's office for a follow-up appointment. My family crowded into the small space, a stark contrast to all the medical appointments I'd attended alone before my collapse. Your recovery is progressing well, Dr. Martinez smiled, showing us my latest test results. The surgical repair is holding beautifully. The collective sigh of relief from my family was audible. They become almost obsessive about my recovery, swinging from one extreme to the other, from dismissing every symptom to panicking over every twinge. Remember, he continued, it's normal to have good days and bad days during recovery. The key is to listen to your body. Diana, who'd taken a leave of absence from her nursing job to help with my recovery, nodded seriously. She'd been documenting everything in a medical journal, determined not to miss any potential warning signs. Speaking of listening, Dr. Martinez turned to my family. I'd like to commend you all for the support you've shown during Sarah's recovery. However, he paused meaningfully. I hope this experience has taught a lasting lesson about taking symptoms seriously, regardless of a patient's age or perceived anxiety levels. Mom flinched at his words. She'd been carrying the heaviest burden of guilt, remembering every time she told me to stop being dramatic. The drive home from the appointment was quiet, each of us lost in thought. The past 3 months had changed more than just my heart. They'd fundamentally altered our family dynamics. Mark, who'd once led the chorus of mockery, had become my fiercest defender. Last week, when a colleague suggested I was milking my medical leave, Mark had nearly lost his job confronting them. I'm not watching anyone else dismiss my sister's health, he declared. At home, we gathered for our now regular family dinner, a tradition that had transformed from a source of anxiety to genuine support. I have something to share, Diana announced as we ate. I'm switching departments at the hospital. We all looked up, surprised. I'm transferring to the cardiac unit, she continued, and I'm enrolling in a specialized program about identifying heart conditions in young patients. Her voice cracked slightly. I never want another family to go through what we did. Mom reached for her hand. We all learned the hard way. Actually, I said, I have news too. I pulled out a letter from my bag. I've been invited to speak at a medical conference. They want me to share my story about being young with heart symptoms and not being believed. The pride on their faces was mixed with lingering shame. You'll need to talk about us, Dad said quietly. About how your own family didn't believe you. Yes, I admitted. But I'll also talk about how you changed. How you learned and grew from it. The conversation shifted to planning for the conference, with everyone offering support. Such a different scene from those family dinners where they competed to dismiss my concerns. Later that evening, as everyone was leaving, Diana hung back. I reviewed your old medical records, she confessed. All those times you came to my ER complaining of chest pain. I didn't just dismiss you as a sister. I dismissed you as a nurse. I failed you professionally as well as personally. You can't change that now, I said gently, but you can change how you treat future patients. She hugged me carefully, mindful of my healing chest. I've already started. Last week, I had a young woman come in with symptoms similar to yours. In the past, I might have written her off as anxious. Instead, I ordered a full cardiac workup. And we caught a developing condition early. She'll need treatment, but she'll be okay. Diana wiped her eyes. She reminded me so much of you. Mom had been implementing changes too. She'd started a support group for parents of young adults with chronic conditions, helping other families avoid the mistakes we'd made. Dad had thrown himself into cardiac research funding, making significant donations to studies focusing on heart conditions in young people. Even Mark had changed careers, leaving his corporate job to work for a patient advocacy organization. As for me, I was healing, not just physically, but emotionally. The surgery had repaired my heart, but time was healing the deeper wounds of being dismissed and disbelieved by those closest to me. My next cardiology appointment would mark 6 months since the surgery. Dr. Martinez had already praised my recovery as remarkable, but noted that the emotional recovery often takes longer than the physical. Your heart is stronger now, he'd said during my last visit, both literally and figuratively. He was right. I'd learned to trust myself, to advocate for my health, and to set boundaries with those who dismissed my concerns. My family had learned to listen, to support, and to believe. That night, I found Mom had left something on my pillow, a small heart-shaped locket. Inside was a note. To my daughter, whose strength taught us all to listen with our hearts. I'm sorry we took so long to hear you. Love, Mom. I clasped it around my neck, feeling my surgical scar beneath my fingers. Some scars remind us of pain, but others mark the point where healing begins. Mine did both. My heart, now properly diagnosed and treated, beat steadily in my chest. A rhythm of second chances, of lessons learned, and of a family rebuilt stronger than before.